Hey, so I wanted to respond to two comments in a way with the video. And these two comments are actually kind of on the opposite ends of the spectrum. But one was in response to my video from yesterday, which I will try to remember to link below. And the other, which was the video I made yesterday, I think, I said, like 1 minute in, that it was going to be very easy for people to misconstrue my words. And so I gave kind of a big caveat about the topic, which was essentially not that you're necessarily creating the person that you're fixated on to be a certain way, but that you are projecting like a large quantity of what you're perceiving, and that it's actually coming from you. It's actually you that you're dealing with when you are thinking of these, working through, mulling over, ruminating on the problems that you have with this other person. That was the topic of the video. And so I got a comment on that one. And then there was also a comment 2 days ago. I don't remember what the video was. I don't remember what I was talking about, but this comment was, I'd love a video for us who have built our lives around a person and don't want to leave, but would love a tweak or two here and there to make the relationship fit our ideal self better. And the comment that I got in the video yesterday, more basically paraphrasing, was the person that I'm fixated on, my specific person, the person I'm fixated on is a player, and I'm not a player. So how does that work? I knew my words were going to be misconstrued. It's not like if you're viewing an abuser or thinking about an abuser in a relationship with an abuser, or you're in a relationship with somebody like a cheater. That doesn't mean you're a cheater. It doesn't mean that you're an abuser. That's not at all what I meant. And I don't know. I think it's very easy to get really confused. And so I was saying in that video, just be really careful with any of these ideas, and maybe stick with what you know about how to handle yourself in relationships, and until you really feel like you understand this stuff. Don't make a lot of decisions based off of ideas that you're getting from the manifestation community about, everyone is you pushed out and that stuff, because I have never heard such garbage like I've heard on the channels on YouTube about everyone is you pushed out. Like, I don't know. It's like people have no ability to think beyond the surface or something in a lot of these videos that I've seen. But so I wanted to just kind of like talk about this. As always, I am not a master. I'm not an ascended master. I'm not a teacher. I'm not somebody whose word should be taken to be written in stone, especially since words fail at conveying concepts and ideas a lot of the time. It's just, you really have to think about all this stuff for yourself. And if you kind of start with the premise of, I want to, when I understand this concept, I will feel it in this area. I'll know that I understand it as it pertains to me and the way I use language and all of that stuff. If you kind of come at everything you're listening to about all this stuff with that, then, you'll know if you're not understanding something. Like, if you hear a concept and it makes you feel like absolute shit, stop. Just tell yourself, okay, I'm misunderstanding this, and just drop it. The understanding that you need will come. And when you understand something, I think for real, it's not necessarily a sense of euphoria, but there should be a sense of peace, because it's all good. It's all good. None of these ideas should be construed as, I am meant to be unhappy. Something that I want in order to be fulfilled is not in the cards, or anything like that. Okay, so I just wanted to put that out there, because this is just my perspective on this. It's my experience. And I'm talking about it through the lens of pretty heavily incorporating all of the manifesting ideas in my life for the last couple decades, close to 3 decades now. So this is just my perspective, okay? So starting at the bottom, you have a specific person. You are fixated on somebody to the point that you're watching videos to see how you can manifest them into your life in a different form. And it has to be this person. So let's just say, like this commenter, clearly there's a relationship with somebody who is not interested in something exclusive, not interested in providing the things that this person believes they want from the relationship. Commenter believes that commenter needs or wants from a relationship with this person. Basically, they're unavailable. And when I think about somebody who is a player, I think about somebody who you don't really take seriously in terms of a relationship. Somebody who isn't too concerned about the emotional impact of their behavior, probably. Who, just can't take this person seriously. This person isn't really capable at this point of anything more than just a one-night stand or, a booty call. Okay? So let's just define that as this person's fixation, this person's specific person, commenter's specific person. Let's encapsulate them that way. I believe the term they used was fuckboy. That was not around when I was young enough to be in this type of environment. Are there any 45-year-old fuckboys? I don't know. I wasn't around during the use of that word becoming a thing. But I think that's what it means. Pretty sure that's what it means. Somebody who is pretty much just good for coming over for a quick lay at 3 a.m, and probably on their terms. Probably they will dictate when they're going to come over and do that. So, all of this stuff is so screamingly about the commenter and not about the person, which, is kind of what I was saying. I was saying though, in the last video, that the thoughts you have about that person are projections of you. So this person, if you're fixated on, where does this land when you're obsessing over this person? They won't give me what I want. They won't give me what I want. Or is it a judgment it's so disgusting that he is incapable of more than this? It's those things where you have a strong feeling, I can't take this person seriously. The things that you're thinking about that person are about you. So if your big thought was, I can't take this person seriously, I would ask yourself, why can't you take yourself seriously? Why are you emotionally unavailable? These things, just turn it around on yourself, because these projections, it's not to say that it isn't true of the other person, but your fixation, you coming back to those thoughts, those are the things that are for you. That person has a wide range of judgments that you could be making on them. You're only making them in certain areas. Those, or I should say, you're only coming back again and again and again to certain things about this person. And those are the things I think you need to think of in terms of yourself. It goes without saying, it should go without saying, that the thoughts you're having about yourself in relation to this person are of vital importance. So if you're thinking, I'm not good enough for this person to want to have this emotional relationship with me, especially if you're looking at somebody like that and saying, if I were better, then his behavior would be different. If I were better, then he would stop being a player and commit to me. That is where you need to go. And that's what you need to think about. Because that is simply not how this stuff works, as much as everybody would like to say it does. Maybe once in a while, somebody changes their self-concept, and then the player-specific person suddenly wants to commit and wants to be together and turns into somebody capable of that or whatever. In which case, I would have to say, I really wonder how much of the original judgment on that person was even true, because there's a certain way this stuff works and it's reliable. You can take it to the bank. So, everything you're getting when you hear about this stuff is secondhand from someone else. If you were a fly on the wall in the relationship between these two people, you'd see it always works this way. It can't not. So, if you're in a situation where you're, fixated on somebody like this, all of the work you need to do is on you. I was saying yesterday, I was recounting this story, how I was in this thing. When I first started this channel, there's videos, the first 6 months, there's some videos I made about this person. I was in this like relationship that the person, my friend Steve, that he just like refused to label it. And then so because I wasn't in like a terrible place, like it was a big turnoff that he wasn't just like right there with me on wanting to be together. He, you know, I don't know. It was just like this push-pull thing where I got really turned off. And so I was like, you know, we didn't talk for a while and then we were friends. But of course, both of us, you know, were interested in each other. There were big feelings there. And, you know, it just was like, we just could not find our way into a relationship. And I always viewed him like my big thing, like how I was talking about when you fixate on somebody, the things that you're fixating on are for you. There were plenty of things, you know, I had plenty of issues with Steve in general, but the thing I kept coming back to is he's a commitment phobe. He won't go all in with me. He refuses to label it. He's one of those guys. He's keeping his options open, like that type of thing. That was where my mind always went when I would think about that relationship. And what ended up becoming abundantly clear to me was that I was keeping myself in this energetic relationship because I was not available. I was not ready and willing to go all in. So I kept fixating on this thing, on the other person, which, by the way, I don't know if that was completely true about him, because I'm going to tell you, I didn't tell you the ending of that story. And if you don't go back and watch all these videos, I'm not even sure if it's still up. But I had sort of a big realization about that I was not available because of a life situation that I was in. And I took, as soon as I realized that, I thought about it for a few days. And I said, okay, I really, I do want to be available for a relationship, a real relationship. And so I need to do some emotional shifting in relation to my ex, who is still in my life. He's in my life to this day. I assume he always will be. We own a business together and we're just kind of like long lost family members. I'm going to make a video on how to manifest your soulmate, soul family, at some point. He's like a member of my soul family. He's probably not going anywhere. And we were just I had too many, you know, all of these things. So few of these mental constructs have any like real physical, real world anything. It's like all ideas in your head that are holding you back. And I had to detach from him and kind of shift my expectations of that relationship with my ex, and to shift my own sense of obligation to put him first, and, you know, all of that. I had to think about that. And he and I we didn't talk for a few weeks. And that whole thing just kind of had to shift after I realized I'm still kind of committed to somebody else in many ways that is preventing me from being able to go all in this relationship or any relationship. And what happened was, after that, like maybe a month later, it took probably about a month for me to work through all that stuff regarding my ex. And then I don't think Steve and I were talking during that. We weren't. Steve and I weren't talking during that time. We didn't talk for like a month in there. And that was yeah. So I basically spent, okay, it's coming back to me now. I spent like a few weeks just completely by myself. I didn't have any kind of emotional support from my ex. I wasn't talking to Steve. And I was just kind of in this place of sitting by myself, figuring out what does my world look like and feel like when I am just sort of completely emotionally alone outside of like my mom. You know, it had been a long time since I had done that. I had my ex for 17 years, or I guess that's now 10 years. I don't know. Basically, I sat there by myself and just sort of reoriented myself to the present moment at age 40 or whatever I was. And that was very beneficial. And the conclusion to that story was Steve and I started talking again. And that whole thing had shifted in me. And pretty rapidly, and at the time I was noticing that this was certainly because my behavior was different. Pretty rapidly, Steve stopped being, in my perception and in reality, maybe, a commitment phobe. He was just like, hey, he stopped refusing to be in a relationship officially in a relationship with me. But unfortunately, and this I think is how a lot of these things end. You have this fixation on somebody and it's all about you. And when you resolve the issues about you that are being projected onto this person, or that are keeping you involved with this person at all, you see the person and the relationship for what it really is. And if it's not what you want it to be, you just walk away from it. You don't then stay and try to change it into something else. I don't know why you would do that. But I actually met Matt before that happened. I was talking to Matt around the same time as all of this was going down. And I already knew Matt. And when Steve sort of floated this kind of, I don't even know what to call it. And this is part of why it was so unappealing. How that relationship ended was I think I thanked him at the end. I said something like, we had decided we were going to stop talking altogether. And I said something like, you know what? I feel like I should thank you for not getting involved with me, because I would hate to have gotten in a relationship with somebody who wasn't all in. At this point in my life, I would hate to have, I feel kind of grateful towards you for staying true to not wanting to commit to me, because if you kind of knew that a breakup was going to happen at some point, I'm glad that we didn't go through that. I remember saying something like that to him, and it was sincere and kind of spontaneous. And I'm pretty sure that is what changed the whole thing. Because his response after that, it was maybe a day later, his response was, I think I misunderstood where you were coming from this whole time. And, I would be okay with us being together or something. And then we had another which I don't know about you, but that's not a big, that wasn't really attractive to me. The way that was presented wasn't really attractive to me. And then he also warned me. There was this conversation where he kind of forcefully warned me about how about all the downsides of being in a relationship with him. And that just further made me not be interested in it at all. I mean, I was kind of already over it by the time it was offered. And then the way it was presented, I was just well, this isn't really what I'm going for. My ultimate romantic fulfillment was a done deal. And I was just this isn't my ultimate romantic fulfillment by any stretch. It was a turnoff. I didn't feel any draw to it at all. And so it didn't happen. This is why I really think you need to, examine things about yourself, because these relationships that you get attracted into that aren't working, those things are all about you. They're all about you. Relationships that don't work are lessons for you. All right. So that was how that concluded. And then Steve and I, there were some more incidents after that further solidified, I don't know, with the thing with Steve. And I wish Steve nothing but the best. And I think he's doing pretty well, actually. I haven't talked to him in almost, I don't know, it's been at least 4 years. So I haven't talked to him, and I'm sure he's doing well. He was capable of many things that he wasn't doing, and I think he started doing them. So I really wish the best for Steve. But that was pretty much it after that. And like I said, I had already met Matt. Matt and I didn't end up getting together until probably a month after that. But, I was already talking to Matt, and my relationship with Matt was, I don't want to say, Matt's my soulmate and Matt and I are going to be together till the day we die. I don't want to say anything like that, because I just don't think it's a good idea to say things like that. I think that blinds you to stuff. But the relationship with Matt my relationship with Matt is why I believe that time isn't linear. I think Matt and I were making some kind of soul contract on the other side, real time, as my life was evolving in 2020 because he showed up and immediately provided an immense amount of emotional support for when my dad got sick and died. My dad got sick 2 weeks after Matt moved to my state, which was like 3 months after we met, and Matt and I were in the thick of it in that situation, and my dad died like not even 3 months later. So Matt kind of got like thrust into this situation where he provided all this emotional support. And now that it's like 4 years later, from that whole series of events, I can clearly see how it's almost like Matt was super Matt during that time. I think the newness of the relationship and where I was with myself at that time, I think like it's almost like a miracle occurred there. It was just like a huge gift to me. I don't know what I would have done without Matt during that situation. I just don't know what the hell I would have done. I go back and I try to imagine how I would have handled the stuff I was there for without my brother. And even when my brother was there, Matt and my brother did so much, man stuff together. Like they moved my dad's entire, we didn't have time to like get movers and set stuff up. It was just like one emergency after another. And Matt, who is like a, 6'6", 220, Matt put his finger on my forehead like this, and I tried to move using my entire body. I could not move with Matt with his finger like this on my forehead. So he was very valuable for moving washing machines and stuff like that. During that time, he did so much physical shit. And now that I know Matt way better 4 years later, I'm kind of like, wow, just compared to like the Matt now that I know now, how like that must have been, it was like super Matt. It was like Matt to his highest degree was available during that period of time. So that all was obviously supposed to happen or something. Or like I said, time's not linear, and Matt and I created that real time from the other side. For him to be there for that. If I had gotten together with Steve, I don't know what the hell would have happened. I know Steve wouldn't have been down there with me. I don't think our relationship would have survived that. And, Matt was like fully there for me emotionally after the fact also. I just don't think that would have worked out with Steve. So, when I look back on that pivotal event in my life, there's also a certain quality of, I don't really understand how this all came together at that time. But it seems pretty clear that it wasn't an accident, that all of that played out the way it did. This whole experience is such utter perfection. It's so perfect when you start to understand, like really understand, like experientially understand that the world is you being reflected. The perfection, I think, moves to the forefront. It is so intricately, perfectly constructed. So anyway, moving right on to that other comment. Did I read that? Shit. I'd love a video for us who have built our lives around a person and don't want to leave, but would love a tweak or two here and there to make the relationship fit our ideal self better. The question I have for you is, are you already your ideal self? Is your relationship preventing you from becoming your ideal self? Because I would say, don't think about the relationship or the other person at all if you're not already your ideal self. I would focus entirely on you and turn your attention off of the things that are missing in the relationship entirely. I think when you focus on the things that are missing, they grow, and it's not an accident. The more you think about them being missing, the more you become like unwittingly even committed to the idea that they're missing. And then your behavior, this is not even that hard to see, I think, if you're paying attention to yourself and what you're saying and doing, you create more of that. Like in my relationship with Matt, I know I was just so bad with this. Like, I still was like, first of all, I felt really like weird about the fact that we had just met and just like gotten in the same geographical location. And then it was kind of put upon him to come up with all of this giving when, the best I could do was try to keep myself from like lashing out at anybody, which I did very well. I tried to look out for Matt during that time, and I tried to not let my emotional state affect him as much as I possibly could. And I did a pretty good job with that. But I felt, after that whole thing was over, I felt like I was indebted in a way. And I kept kind of looking for him to be mad about that. Or like, I was expecting certain reactions from him. And I don't know that I was really getting them. And I don't know. I think there was a lot of like berating myself for a lot of things after that experience. And Matt was not playing his role in punishing me. And so I think I did a lot to create, to kind of push him to a point where I started to get a little taste of those reactions and then I fixated on him. And then it's like, the way these things like get made is not that mystical. So if you're fixating on things in your relationship that aren't there for you, in an otherwise good relationship, which I would imagine is, oh, I wish he was like more affectionate. I think a lot of times we focus on the other person and you realize that, I don't know, if you're not getting the kind of affection that you want, I think you should really, truly put yourself in your mind in the scenario where that is happening, and see how you feel, see how that's affecting the rest of your life, and look for any sign of discomfort in you at that thing actually being that way, and then figure out what that is, because there's a reason why things are the way they are. And if you're saying to someone else about someone else in your mind, this person's not showing me enough affection, this person is not lusting after me as much as I would like, this person is kind of lazy or something. If you're like fixating on a quality about another person like that, I would look at yourself. And one of an example of it not being a parallel, I think, is if you look at somebody else and say, this person's lazy, they're not doing enough, they're not helping me enough, I'm burdened. If you look at that and you realize what it really is coming down to, it's not about them, it's about you. I'm burdened. I'm doing too much. And I'm resentful about it. That's where I think you look at your views on everything going on in that area. I often feel strapped. I often feel like that towards other people in my life. And I take on so much of everything. First of all, people often offer to help me and I say no. Often I'm like, no, I'll take care of this. I want it done right. I'm going to do it myself. I'm like full steam ahead on strike while the iron's hot with my business, make a lot of money, save a lot of money, invest a lot. And then the offshoot of that onto other people is they're not choosing to do this thing that I'm choosing to do. And so I feel resentful about it when I'm taking it on myself. And, I think when you start to look at other people in that way, and you're like judging things about them in that way, it's often just because you're not willing to do something yourself. I do a lot of stuff, and that I think stems from, an insecurity, a fear of something bad happening. You know what I mean? And so as long as I don't address that with myself, then it often takes the form of this projection onto others that they're not doing enough, or that they're lazy, when really they're just human and they're not making the same choices I am. And it's really all about me. It's really about me and my choices. It's never about anybody else. And that's the case across the board. So if you're in a relationship, you've built a life around somebody else, like I assume that means like you've been married for a long time, you have kids, finances, a house, whatever that means to people, the typical life having been built with somebody, and you just want things to be more ideal, I would just say, shut the focus off of anything outside of yourself. What about you do you feel isn't ideal in this situation? And then go ahead and change that. And as much as you can, every time you find yourself with your mind drifting to the other person and what they're not doing, bring it back to yourself. And I think you'll know if the way you're thinking about this, based on what I'm saying, is right for you. It should be a tremendous relief. Anytime you are having that dissatisfied feeling, or maybe much worse, towards somebody in your life, and you take the focus off them and you put it back on yourself, it's empowering. It feels good. You can kind of sense you're doing the right thing. That's why you have to get this sense of, in this area, am I doing the right thing? Is this right for me? Because there will be sort of a sense of peace there, at least that's the way I'm describing it, when you're doing the right thing. The language I'm using might not work for you at all. So when you start thinking of things through your own lens, using the words I'm using, and it doesn't feel right, discard it. Put it in the discard pile. But yeah, I think most people are adjacent to this. If the way I'm describing it isn't exactly right for you and you're saying, no, this doesn't ring true for me, well, I don't know, move it over a little to the left or the right and think of it from a little bit of a different angle for yourself. And maybe you'll just hit on the exact right understanding for yourself so that you can do this. And so what happens if, you do think you're your ideal self already, and you're still unsatisfied with your relationship? I don't know. I don't think all relationships are necessarily meant to last forever. I don't know. Or it's up to you to just say, I have a situation in my life that is less than ideal. And I don't know, maybe then you can start trying some of these mind tricks. Just start telling yourself all the time, blah, 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 person is super, super affectionate now, and see if that evokes it. I mean, I don't know. There are these little things, like I was saying about how I kind of brought some things about in Matt, I think, that I didn't want. And I had to kind of work really hard to make those things happen. I think that if you have an expectation of somebody, I think often when we don't feel like somebody else is affectionate enough, you look at yourself and say, am I being affectionate? Oh, but I wasn't the one that stopped it. You know what I mean? There's all these excuses, but if you look and you say, I want this person to display a certain characteristic, well, are you doing that? Are you playing your role in that, whatever the thing is? Sometimes it's not just I want affection, so I need to be affectionate. Sometimes it's more of, I want this thing, so I have to facilitate it in this other way. I don't know. You have to think about this stuff. My best friend from childhood showed up out of nowhere last night and asked me to go to lunch today. So I'm going to be doing that in a few hours. She just texted me. That's why I'm saying it. You heard the ding. That's also an interesting thing for me. I find it really interesting talking to people from the past to see how things have changed on my end, how I experienced them differently. I had a very interesting relationship with this person growing up. We were best friends from kindergarten until seniors in high school. We lived right down the street from each other. And I found it's interesting to run into her here and there and to see what thoughts come up in relation to her. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so I hope that helped anybody. That was a long video. I wasn't expecting it to be that long, but I find people to be the most interesting reflectors in life because their behavior is so easy. It's so easily changed, naturally changed by changes just in your mind about yourself. It's really easy, I think, to see the way a change in you affects the outer world with people, because they just they will reflect the slightest changes in you, and sometimes in ways you couldn't have anticipated. I find that really interesting, fascinating. Anyway, I hope this helped anybody with anything. Have a great day.